Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty interesting news going on where Sony actually is now having a little bit of drama and is a little bit worried about all of Xbox's upcoming acquisitions, and as well, kind of being a little bit worried about the future of the PlayStation platform as a whole. Now, we're seeing this news, we're seeing all this stuff coming on up, and in all honesty, it makes a lot of sense. We're going to talk about this because this is pretty much the big news of the day. And Sony does sound scared. Xbox has been making good moves, and although the PlayStation has still been selling better, sometimes in the future, maybe even think the next generation, all this stuff put together might be kind of a really bad perfect storm to finally go overtake the PlayStation. So a lot of stuff to talk about, as well as make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. We got them Twitter and Twitch stream links down below. Would love to have you guys follow. The how links, target links you guys want to check out and see, and other little various things too as well down below. And let's dive in the video. So, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, just in general, we've been seeing the acquisition battle throughout this entire year. Looking at Activision being bought out by Xbox, that's going to be a huge deal, and it's still not even fully finalized and not fully in the motion as of yet. While PlayStation's also in the same boat, where they've had a chance to go and finalize their Bungie acquisition and a few of these other studios. But the biggest issue right now is on the Call of Duty side. Now, as you guys all pretty much know, Call of Duty is one of the biggest games in the entire world. If you guys don't even play it yourselves, or you think it's dead, no, there are so many millions upon millions of folks that will buy the game, play the game, stream the game, YouTube the game, TikTok the game, or whatever it may be. And with all this put together, it kind of is one of the most integral games nowadays of, well, this past few generations. And for this, Sony is actually pretty worried. So Sony sounds shocked by Xbox's Activision buyout, says Call of Duty has no rival. Strikes the series influences users' console choice. Well, the first and foremost, I'm usually, kind of pretty pro PlayStation 5 on the channel, but it is kind of a pretty big duh. Why else would a company spend literally like $70 billion, one of the largest of all-time acquisitions, to go and not have people go and come in there and join their consoles and go on Windows and get Game Pass? That's the biggest duh I think I've ever seen in my entire life. So Sony sounds terrified of Xbox's unprecedented Activision Blizzard buyout, and it's easy to understand why. While the Japanese giant has historically had its own way to the console business, it now finds itself up against a competitor with unrestricted access to its parent company's trillion-dollar deep pockets, and it's uncrushable shook. And we've seen a lot of these articles coming out even as of these past 1 or 2 days, and there is actually something we should be cautious of. The idea that, hey, guess what? Sometimes this stuff is a little bit scary. Like, if you got more money, guess what? That's like if you were born with richer parents. It just kind of makes everything a little bit different. So as regulators continue to paw over the acquisition before it's approved, Reset Era spotted a questionnaire submitted in Brazil, of all places, in which the PlayStation maker was asked about its thoughts on the near $70 billion deal. Its responses are fascinating because it's the firm's best interest for the buyout to get blocked, even if Microsoft has claimed that franchises like Call of Duty will remain multi-format. Now, this is intriguing because this does seem like it's actually coming from PlayStation itself. Now, this is not the biggest thing out there, obviously, because it's not the mainstay like United States PlayStation, but it did seem like it was in Brazil, which it still has legal merit, and it does have global layout when it comes to it, which is intriguing. So basically, Microsoft is in their mind trying to be like, yeah, this will be good money for us. Like, yeah, if PlayStation wants it on their platform, or say on Steam or whatever, yeah, we'll go pay for it, sure. But we'll be getting that money after every sale and microtransactions. Sure, they'll get money off their own cutback, but we're getting the big head honcho cutback. So specifically, the manufacturer points out that Call of Duty is an essential game, a blockbuster, a AAA type game that has no rival, and a release that can influence users' console's choice. Sony says that it's impossible to create a competitor, and even if it could stump up the cost, the series is so entrenched that it would not be able to rival it. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I do think this is kind of a weird call. There is a huge differential between one of the biggest games in the world versus making your own standalone game. And obviously, it's going to take a lot of time, effort, money, development time, but I still think that PlayStation could probably pull it off. Now, also, don't forget, this is also a multi-year process, so the first game may not be the best, But think other games like, say, Battlefield, where they actually have had pretty good long-term success, or even Halo, although, sometimes with sketchy launches in the middle, it's kind of something to go and also consider that the possibility is there. They can make games, they can invest the time into it, but I do stand by that Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest games of all time. Each annual Call of Duty release takes approximately 3 to 5 years to develop, the company said. As Activision releases one Call of Duty game per year, this equates to an annual investment of hundreds of millions of dollars. Approximately 1,200 people work on each version, and another 1,500 are involved in publishing and distribution. Thus, Call of Duty alone has more developers than most game companies employ across its entire development portfolio, even on AAA studios. Which is, honestly, kind of insane to go and see in general. But I mean, duh, it's a big game. You're making multiple games. They're pretty high quality. Although if you like the maps or like the gameplay or whatever, they are usually pretty high up there in the quality of life. It added, no other developer can devote the same level of resource and expertise in game development. Even if they could, Call of Duty is overly entrenched so that no rival, no matter how relevant, can catch up. It can do that, the series defines the first-person shooter category and provided comparisons to Battlefield that illustrate that there is no contest between the brands. Players would be unlikely to switch to alternate games as they would lose that familiarity, those skills, and even the friends they made playing the game, the company continued. I would actually probably want to chime in too and say, I feel like that's not true. I just think at this point, like, everyone just gets the local yearly Call of Duty because it's like, why not? I'll check it out. If my buds are going to play it for a week or so, or for $60, may not be the worst. Or even more so on Game Pass. If Call of Duty's on Game Pass, I'll probably go play it because literally, guess what? Why not? My friends on PC will have a chance to play. It'll be a good time. Why not? And it's kind of intriguing to see, too, that PlayStation's against it. They do make valid points, and they actually may hold up in court. We'd have to just see how as time goes on and everything with it. But I don't think this will hold up to the point of them blocking this acquisition. Although it is a big acquisition nonetheless, Call of Duty's big, but I really do think PlayStation could go make an alternative, and they do also have other series-defining games, say like Bungie, and although it's not worth as much as Call of Duty or have as much name brand as Call of Duty, like basically if they wanted to, they would have Bungie be able to go use a lot of the assets, make their own FPS game, and be able to turn that off. Or even the same thing with Ubisoft too, as they say things like Rainbow Six or BR categories. There are options that do well, although once again, like a straight shooter versus like multiplayer shooter versus a Fortnite BR type style game is definitely different. So it gets to make sense. Even in weaker years like 2021, Call of Duty still managed to outperform most other games by a considerable margin. Call of Duty Vanguard, for example, was widely regarded as weaker than previous year's titles, but was still one of the best-selling games of 2021. In other words, even in a bad year, players remain loyal to the brand and continue to buy the game. Sony also pointed out that the Activision Blizzard continues to recruit for Call of Duty and is looking to expand the series' already significant workforce, further lessening any chance of a rival emerging. Which is intriguing too as well, because it also, like, they're trying to go argue at this current day and state that it's too big, like as of literally right this second, not even with Microsoft intervention or money, but now they're also trying to go counterpoint to where they're like, hey, like, let's go, like, they're going to make it bigger, they're going to spend even more money, they have like $1 trillion daddy supplying this, it's going to probably have some issues. So as of right yet, obviously, the deal has not been yet so far, but what Sony does, they actually do have some sort of merit in some sort of comments that do kind of support, like, hey, we should maybe plot this, or hey, we should at least consider it. Now, most analysts were assuming that the Activision deal would most likely go through, but just due to the overall quantity, price point, and as well as you guys are seeing with this monopoly that Call of Duty have, it does make things a little bit harder to go and push. So it's still definitely in that really big legal gray area. So obviously the platform holder is laying it on thick in the statements because PlayStation does not want this to go through. They want to maintain Call of Duty on their platforms. They don't want exclusive rights on, say, Xbox, or have like, a week early or Game Pass only. They kind of funnel more money to that. Makes sense, but I'm not sure if it'll hold up. So basically, Call of Duty is a machine fed by several teams all at once, and it probably required the entirety of PlayStation Studios to create a rival, and even then, it lacked the brand recognition to compete. That's just not viable. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Sony has a case? Do you think that Sony is worried? Do you think PlayStation could maybe pull this game out off? Now, I do think as well, if they do want to, this actually does go through, PlayStation really does need a proper game response. I think they could pull it off. I think they should be able to go pull it off. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a very interesting thing to still see this unwind, because we keep on seeing more and more bits and pieces of this every single day. So ultimately, though, the outcome is out of its hands. It'll be interesting to see how the industry changes over the coming years. PlayStation is no pauper, of course, but it's increasingly finding itself up against a rival with bottomless pockets, such as Microsoft, all at a time when it wants to increase prices. For the likes of PlayStation boss Jim Ryan and other Sony management, it's going to need a nimble to navigate this essential threat to its entire brand. So give me your thoughts and comments down below. I think it's very intriguing. I don't think Sony will have a case on here, but it's intriguing to hear the thoughts and comments finally coming out publicly. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. We have all the Amazon links, Target links, Howl links, Twitch, and Twitter down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on.